On this episode, we're talking about why Google AdWords don't work, what review sites are best, and how to get your practice known in your community. Hey everybody, and welcome to the 88 Dental Marketing Show. I'm your host, Joshua Scott, and we are answering dentistry's most important marketing questions on today's show, episode number 9. I don't got anything else. Let's get to some questions.
The first question comes from Mitchell. What can I do to get my Google ad to work? I've had 10,000 views and 27 clicks that lead to my Google Plus page, but only one call on a weekend with no message left.
Mitchell, so you got a Google AdWords campaign, but it's not working. 10,000 views or impressions, 27 clicks, one phone call, and that was on a weekend, right? So, I see the tendency to go, well, it's Google AdWords, it's not working. A few things first. Number one, I'm not sure that I understand the Google AdWords pointing people to a Google Plus page. I think typically when people are clicking on a Google link or a search engine link, they're expecting to go to a website. So for me, that would be disconnect number one, is if I actually clicked on that site, on that listing that I got back from the search engine from Google, and I end up at a Google Plus page. That to me, it feels shady. It's a complete disconnect. So that's number one. Secondly, I think the other thing you got to pay attention to is, are your ads falling at the top of the page or are they falling on the right-hand column? And for me, those are two different games. The ads at the top, there's going to be 2 or 3 listed there, by far get the most attention. The ads on the right-hand column, personally, I don't play in that game. I don't play in that space. If we manage thousands of dollars every month for our clients in AdWords, and our game is the top 1, 2, or 3 listings, or we're out. Go big or go home. Jack Welch, be number 1 or number 2, or get out. That's how I look at it, because I think that's where the majority of attention is. And it's better to pay $12 to be at the top than to pay $8 and to be at the side where nobody sees you. And so I think you got to look through both of those things, because Google AdWords work. We see them drive new patients to practices every single month. And so those would be the 2 things I would analyze. Typically, my strategy is if you go into the analytics, the Google AdWords analytics, they will give you a top of the page bid. So there's like a first page bid, which means you just bid that and you can be on the first page, which may be where you're at and you're getting a lot of views, just not a lot of clicks. But then there's top of the page bid, which is going to be higher. That's what they're estimating it's going to take for you to pay to get to the top of the page. My strategy is I typically take that number, add about $2 to it, and then we get to the top of the page. And then last kind of part here is you got to check back, like at least once a month, to see if you've been outbid again by somebody else. So you got the top of the page, but then somebody outbids you, and now you may have to outbid them, and there may be a little bit of a bidding war until things settle down. So those would be the 2 things I would look at, man. Why the Google Plus page? Make sure you're getting at the top of the search result page, and go from there.
Noel wants to know, what are the best review sites?
Noel, yeah, it can get confusing because there's a bunch of players in this space now, and most of it's just because of the fact that people are realizing the importance of online reviews, and now you got a bunch of different players jumping in trying to get a little bit of that pie. And so, yeah, for me, it's real easy. There's a line, and there's 2 spaces. There's 2 sets of players, okay? One of them we definitely pay attention to. The other one we don't pay attention to, okay? And so one side of that we're going to say are the people we don't pay attention to. And I'm going to throw things in here like Dr. Oogle, ZocDoc, Doc Stop Doc. All those kind of I call them like these little nichey review sites that especially are healthcare world related, and they're going to tell you that they only focus on dentistry or they only focus on healthcare, and so they're better. My problem with those is they just don't get play on search engines. And so you can populate a ZocDoc shop site, whatever, with hundreds of reviews, and honestly, it's just not going to show up anywhere. And so it gets none of my attention. It gets none of my love, okay? On the other side, the other players there, Google Plus, Yelp, Angie's List, and one I've always been paying attention to is Healthgrades. And we've talked about that on the show a lot. I've got a new article out about their partnership with Solutionreach. You should check it out. I'll put it in the show notes down below. And so those guys, see, the reason I pay attention to them is because they get play on search engines. Those 4 players are typically always ranking on Google. And so if you populate those pages, it benefits you because people find you and they see those reviews, and it's good for the practice. And so for me, it's a real easy line. If somebody's getting play on search engines, great. We use them and pay attention to them. If they don't, we ignore them.
Question number 3 comes from Danielle. What's the best way to get our office known? I've lived in this area my entire life, and some friends have never even heard of our practice.
Danielle, good question, tough question. I think one of the things here, when you say I've been in a community, how do we get a community to know our practice? I've been here. Even I have friends. I say, hey, I work for this dental practice, and they've never heard of it. So a few things. I think number one, look, marketing and branding, it's a long-term play. And so I understand if let's say in the last 2 or 3 years you've ramped up the marketing and become committed to it and are investing into it, and then at this point somebody says, oh, I never heard of you, and that can be absolutely frustrating. I get that. But marketing is, especially for that type of exposure and brand recognition, is a long-term play. Like, you gotta be in it and committed to it. The next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 30 years. I mean, having that type of reputation of being the go-to brand, the go-to practice in the community. When people think dentistry, they think you. That's a 30-year commitment. I'm just being honest. It's a long-term play, it's a big investment, and it's a long-term commitment because marketing is momentum. And so the more you invest in it, so you've not done any marketing before and you decide to start investing in it a little bit. It's like pushing this huge rock for the first time. And so you got to get this thing going. Well, then the next year it reinvest some more and you put more effort into it. And so we're getting that thing moving even more. By the 3rd, 4th year, now it's starting to move. Now we're starting to generate some momentum, and setting that budget and investing every year in marketing is what creates that momentum. And so now 10 years into it, you've got this big investment and you've got all this momentum. Now we're talking, now we're telling everybody else, yeah, good luck catching up because we're taking off. And so 10 years, you see a ton of momentum. 20 years, you become the established industry leader. 30 years, man, we start talking like legacy and the next generation and who we're passing it on to and becoming an anchor in the community, those types of things. And so it's a long-term play. It's about building momentum. But then there's another interesting statistic here from a company called Bain & Company. It's a consulting firm. And again, I'll link up the article in the show notes down below. So now you got 2 articles. You got some homework to do. But this article says that even the brands with the best intentions, that is strategies and budgets and marketing like commitment, even the brands with the best intentions can at best hope to add 1% of exposure per year. So for you and your practice, let's say you've got 10% exposure in your community, which would be really good for a dental practice. 10% of the population knows you, actively knows you and recognizes your brand. If you want to grow that to 25%, that's 15 years. And then if you want to go to 40%, that's another 15 years. So to go from 10% to 40% exposure is 30 years. And that's why I say It's a long-term play. It's a commitment. It's about building and maximizing that momentum year after year after year. And if you can do that, look, in the first 1 to 5 years, I guarantee you're going to be sitting there thinking, we're not doing enough. This isn't working. By year 10, you're going to feel good about it. And by year 15, by year 20, you're going to have the best practice in town. I guarantee it.
Question number 4 comes from Alex. How's your bracket doing?
Alex, we're not going to talk about that right now, man. No, look, my bracket right now, 14th place, 14, 1-4 out of 21 teams. So I have a total possible points of 121. So I'm not going anywhere. And you know, it's here's what it is. I've got Kentucky in the Final Four. I mean, that's it. Out of the 4 teams, I got Kentucky. That was it. I had Virginia in the East, which I mean, I think everybody's East Regional is just a mess. I don't know of anybody who's picked Michigan State to be there. So I think everybody's in that same category in the East. But the South, I had Iowa State. I did. Going into the tournament, I thought they were the hottest team in the country. And so I figured they would get there. And then in the West, I picked Arizona over Wisconsin, which shame on me for betting against the Big Ten. But man, I thought when the bracket was starting, when the tournament was starting, I thought Arizona and Iowa State had the most momentum. I thought they were the hottest teams going into the tournament. I thought they would ride that all the way to the Final Four. So I got it wrong. It doesn't matter. It's all good. Guys, thanks for being a part of episode number 9. Your homework is down below. 2 articles for you to read. One on Solutionreach's new partnership with Healthgrades and what that means for your practice. The other one is a great article by Bain and Company about the secrets to brand growth. Read those. Give me some comments. I will see you next episode.